In the lush heartlands of the African savanna, nestled between rolling hills and tall acacia trees, lay the village of Omoroti. The villagers lived simple lives, hunting and farming, but they were blessed with a sacred connection to the moon. On nights when the moon shone brightly, the elders would gather to tell stories of Ogonji, the moon spirit who watched over their land. Among the villagers was a young hunter named Ekene, known for his unmatched speed and sharp aim. Ekene was ambitious, always seeking to prove himself as the greatest hunter the village had ever seen. But his pride often led him to ignore the wisdom of the elders. One night, under the full moon, Ekene wandered deep into the savanna, where the elders had forbidden anyone to go. He was determined to hunt the legendary moon hare, a mystical creature said to bring great fortune to anyone who caught it. But the moon hare was no ordinary prey. It was a messenger of Ogonji, and harming it would bring a terrible curse. Ekene pursued the moon hare for hours, his heart pounding with excitement. Finally, as the hare paused near a small moonlit pond, Ekene nocked an arrow and let it fly. The arrow struck true, and the hare let out a heart-wrenching cry before collapsing. As Ekene approached the fallen creature, the air grew cold, and the moon's light dimmed. A voice echoed around him, deep and sorrowful. "You have slain my messenger," the voice said. "For your pride and disrespect, you shall bear my curse." Ekene fell to the ground, clutching his ears as they began to elongate, transforming into those of a rabbit. His hearing became unnaturally sharp, picking up every rustle of the grass and every whisper of the wind. Though his senses were heightened, his form became part animal, and his shame was unbearable. When Ekene returned to the village, the people were horrified by his transformation. His rabbit ears marked him as cursed, a symbol of defying the moon spirit. Despite his pleas, the elders declared that he must leave the village until he could atone for his actions. Banished and alone, Ekene wandered the savanna, struggling to adapt to his new form. Though his rabbit ears gave him incredible hearing, they also amplified his shame. He could hear the whispers of the villagers, even from miles away, mocking, fearful, and angry. As time passed, Ekene began to notice something strange. The curse had also given him a connection to the natural world. He could hear the voices of animals and the whispers of the wind, as if nature itself was trying to guide him. One night, as Ekene rested under a baobab tree, he heard the soft voice of Ogonji in the wind. "To lift your curse, you must prove yourself worthy of the moon's favor. Seek the Cave of Echoes, where the moon spirit dwells. Face its trials and you may find redemption." Guided by his sharpened senses, Ekene embarked on a journey across rivers, forests, and mountains. Along the way, he encountered many challenges. He had to outwit a pride of lions, cross a crocodile-infested river, and endure the scorching heat of the savanna. At each step, his rabbit ears proved invaluable. He could hear danger before it struck, listen to the whispers of the wind for guidance, and understand the cries of animals who showed him hidden paths. Slowly, Ekene began to appreciate his curse as a gift. At last, Ekene reached the Cave of Echoes, a sacred place where the walls shimmered with moonlight, and every sound seemed to multiply infinitely. Inside, the voice of Ogonji echoed, testing Ekene's heart and spirit. "You sought to prove yourself through pride," the voice said. "Now prove your worth through humility and sacrifice." Ekene's final trial was to face the spirit of the moon hare, which appeared as a massive, glowing rabbit. The spirit challenged Ekene to a race, testing not only his speed, but his willingness to trust and cooperate. Along the way, Ekene realized he could not win alone. He called upon the animals he had helped during his journey, and together they completed the trial. Having passed the trials, Ekene knelt before the spirit of Ogonji, who spoke once more. You have learned that true strength lies not in pride, but in humility and harmony with the world. I lift your curse, but let your rabbit ears remain as a reminder of your journey. With those words, Ekene was transformed. Though his rabbit ears stayed, they were now a symbol of his wisdom and connection to nature. He returned to Omaroti, where the villagers welcomed him as a hero. Ekene became known as the Moonlit Warrior, a protector of the land and its creatures. From that day on, Ekene used his heightened senses to guide his people, ensuring they lived in harmony with the natural world. The story of his journey became a legend, teaching generations the importance of humility, respect, and balance. Pride and ambition can lead to one's downfall, but humility and a willingness to learn can turn even the gravest curse into a blessing. In the vast expanse of the Saharan desert, where dunes rose like golden waves and the winds carried the whispers of forgotten spirits, lay the kingdom of Nyaruma. The kingdom flourished amidst the barren sands, sustained by a miraculous oasis guarded by a mysterious stone idol carved into the form of a scorpion. The people believed the idol, called Kiguta, held the power to protect the land and bring forth water, ensuring their survival. King Baburu, a man of great ambition but wavering humility, ruled Nyaruma. One fateful night, he stood before Kiguta, his shadow dancing in the firelight. "I have given this kingdom my life," Baburu whispered. "Yet I am bound to this cursed desert. I demand a greater destiny." The scorpion idol seemed to gleam under the moonlight, as if hearing the king's plea. As the moon reached its zenith, the ground trembled, and the idol's eyes began to glow with an eerie emerald light. A voice, deep and echoing like the rumble of distant thunder, filled the air. "Baburu, king of Nyaruma, you desire greatness beyond your kingdom?" the voice intoned. Trembling, Baburu knelt. "Yes, mighty Kiguta, grant me power beyond these sands." The voice chuckled, sharp and unsettling. "I shall grant your wish, but for every power given a sacrifice must be made. Your greed shall be the scorpion's sting. Will you accept?" Baburu, blinded by ambition, agreed without hesitation. By morning, his transformation had begun. His hands became claws, his back bore a monstrous tail tipped with venom, and his human form twisted into that of a scorpion man. Terrified, Baburu fled into the desert, leaving his kingdom in chaos. Exiled from his people, Baburu wandered the desert, consumed by rage and regret. Yet, with his new form came new power. He could summon storms, control swarms of scorpions, and his venomous sting could fell the mightiest of beasts. He built a new kingdom in the desolate lands beyond Nyaruma, a realm of rock and sand, where he ruled over creatures of the desert, scorpions, serpents, and jackals. Baburu, now known as the Scorpion King, waged war against Nyaruma, seeking to reclaim his throne. His once loyal subjects, horrified by his monstrous appearance and ruthless methods, turned to the gods for help. Among the people of Nyaruma was a young warrior named Kamau, who had grown up hearing stories of the Scorpion King. One night, Kamau dreamt of a red scorpion, glowing like embers, whispering to him, "To save your people, you must find the heart of Kiguta and shatter its curse," it said. Armed with a spear blessed by the village elders, Kamau set out into the desert. Guided by the red scorpion, he braved sandstorms, venomous creatures, and mirages, until he reached the Scorpion King's realm. Kamau confronted the Scorpion King at the heart of his fortress, where Kiguta's stone idol now rested. Baburu, towering and monstrous, laughed at the sight of the young warrior. "Do you think you can defeat me, boy? I am the desert's wrath made flesh." The battle was fierce. Baburu's tail struck with the speed of lightning. but Kamau's agility and determination kept him alive. As the fight raged, Kamau realized the Scorpion King's strength was tied to Kiguta. With a desperate leap, Kamau drove his spear into the idol, shattering it into pieces, began to dissolve, and Baburu fell to the ground, human once more. Tears streamed down his face as he realized the extent of his folly. "I was blinded by greed," Baburu confessed. "Forgive me, my people. Let my story be a lesson. True power comes not from ambition, but from serving others." The curse lifted, the oasis flourished once more, and Kamau returned home as a hero. Baburu, humbled, spent the rest of his days tending the land and teaching the people to live in harmony with nature. Ambition and greed, when left unchecked, can lead to one's downfall. True greatness lies not in ruling over others, but in serving them with humility and wisdom.
In the dense heart of Ndama Forest, where trees stretched endlessly into the sky and the air was heavy with the scent of damp earth, lay the Swamp of Secrets. This swamp was feared and revered by the people of the nearby village, Kivuli, for it was said to be the dwelling place of Ngaro, the crocodile spirit. According to legend, Ngaro was both protector and punisher. He guarded the balance of the swamp, ensuring its waters remained pure and its creatures thrived. But those who disrespected the swamp or hunted its creatures for sport would face his wrath. One hunter, Omari, had no regard for these stories. Renowned for his skill and arrogance, Omari believed he was invincible. "No spirit can stop me," he boasted. "I will hunt wherever I please." One day he ventured deep into the swamp, ignoring the elders' warnings. Armed with his spear and a sense of pride, Omari sought to hunt a great crocodile to prove his dominance. As Omari tracked his prey, the swamp grew eerily quiet. The air thickened, and the once gentle waters began to ripple ominously. Unbeknownst to him, his every step was being watched by something far more powerful than a crocodile. Omari soon found his target, a massive crocodile basking on a muddy bank. With practiced precision, he raised his spear and threw it. The spear struck the crocodile, but instead of roaring in pain, the creature let out a deep, guttural laugh that sent chills down Omari's spine. The crocodile began to transform, its scaly body stretching and reshaping into a humanoid form. Standing before Omari was Ngaro, the crocodile spirit, towering and terrifying, with scales that shimmered in the dim light and piercing yellow eyes that seemed to see through Omari's soul. "You dare to harm my kin and disturb the balance of my swamp?" Ngaro thundered. Omari, frozen with fear, stammered an apology, but it was too late. Ngaro raised a clawed hand and uttered a curse. "For your arrogance and disrespect, you shall become like me, a creature of both land and water. Neither man nor beast. You will guard this swamp until you learn the value of humility and balance." Omari's body convulsed as scales erupted across his skin. His limbs elongated, his hands and feet became clawed, and his teeth sharpened into fangs. His scream echoed through the swamp as he transformed into the Crocodile Man, doomed to live in isolation and servitude. As the Crocodile Man, Omari was bound to the swamp, unable to leave its waters. The villagers, who once admired his bravery, now feared and shunned him. His voice, once filled with pride, became a guttural growl that only the swamp creatures could understand. At first, Omari raged against his fate, cursing Ngaro and the swamp. But as the days turned into weeks, he began to notice the intricate beauty of the swamp. He saw how the herons hunted fish with precision, how the reeds swayed in harmony with the wind, and how the crocodiles coexisted peacefully with the other creatures. Gradually, Omari began to understand the delicate balance of the swamp, a balance he had disrupted with his greed. But understanding was not enough. To break the curse, he would have to prove his worthiness through selflessness and sacrifice. One day, as Omari roamed the swamp, he heard a faint cry. Following the sound, he discovered a young boy from the village trapped in quicksand. The boy had wandered into the swamp chasing a butterfly and was now sinking fast. Despite his monstrous appearance, Omari knew he had to act. Summoning all his strength, he waded into the quicksand and pulled the boy free, using his powerful claws to grip the muddy ground. The boy screamed in fear at the sight of Omari, but was unharmed. Omari returned the boy to the edge of the swamp, watching from the shadows as the villagers embraced him. This act of kindness did not go unnoticed by Ngaro, who appeared that night. "You have taken the first step, Omari," the spirit said, "but redemption requires more than a single act. The swamp will test you further." Over the next moons, Omari faced numerous challenges. He saved a mother heron whose nest was threatened by a rising tide, guided a lost leopard cub back to its den, and helped restore the swamp's balance by protecting its waters from pollution caused by careless villagers. With each act, Omari felt a small part of his humanity returning. The ultimate test came when a group of hunters entered the swamp, determined to slay the crocodile man. Omari, now fully understanding the importance of the swamp's balance, did not wish to harm them, even though they sought his life. Using his knowledge of the swamp, Omari led the hunters away from danger, ensuring they did not disturb the delicate ecosystem. At one point, he revealed himself to them, not as a monster, but as a protector of the land. The hunters, moved by his actions and humbled by their own disrespect, laid down their weapons and pledged to honor the swamp's sanctity.
In the heart of the Great Rift Valley, where the waters of Lake Kivu shimmer under the blazing African sun, stood Mount Kivu, a dormant volcano surrounded by lush, emerald forests. The mountain was shrouded in mystery, for it was said to be home to Nyoka, the serpent bride, a woman cursed to live as half human, half serpent. The elders of Nyiragongo village, nestled at the base of the mountain, told stories of Nyoka. She was once a beautiful maiden named Amara, beloved for her kindness and grace. But Amara was betrayed by her lover, a hunter who sought to steal the sacred pearl of the mountain's spring to gain power. In her despair, she swore allegiance to the mountain spirit for protection. But it came at a terrible cost. She was transformed into the serpent bride, bound to guard the pearl and punish those who approached the mountain with greed in their hearts. Few dared to climb Mount Kivu, but one man, Kendi, believed the legend was a mere tale to scare children. A skilled tracker and treasure seeker, Kendi dreamed of claiming the pearl for himself, not out of greed but to free his people from poverty. One evening, he announced his plan to climb the mountain, dismissing the elders' warnings. "I do not fear spirits or curses," he said. "I will return with the pearl and change our fate." Kendi began his climb at dawn, carrying only a satchel of provisions, a machete, and his unwavering determination. The mountain's slopes were steep and treacherous, but Kendi's skill and strength carried him through. As he climbed, he noticed the forest growing eerily quiet. The songs of birds and the rustle of leaves faded, replaced by an oppressive silence. Near a bubbling spring, he encountered a beautiful woman draped in flowing green robes. Her eyes were golden, and her hair cascaded like a river of black silk. She introduced herself as Nyoka and warned him to turn back. "This mountain is sacred," she said. "What you seek does not belong to you. Leave now, and you will be spared." Kendi, mesmerized by her beauty, yet skeptical of her words, replied, "I mean no harm, only to help my people. If you truly guard the pearl, show me the way." Nyoka's golden eyes darkened. "Your heart is noble, but your path is misguided. Greed disguised as good intention still disrupts the balance. You have been warned." With that, she vanished, leaving only the faint hiss of serpents in the air. Undeterred, Kendi pressed on, climbing higher into the mountain's dense forest. As he ventured deeper, the landscape became stranger. Trees twisted into unnatural shapes. The ground pulsed faintly, and the air grew heavy with the scent of sulfur. At last, Kendi reached a cavern carved into the mountain's rock. Inside, he found the sacred pearl, glowing with an ethereal light that illuminated the darkness. Just as he reached out to take it, the air around him shifted, and Nyoka appeared once more. This time, she was fully revealed as the serpent bride. Her lower half was that of a massive serpent, her scales shimmering with hues of emerald and gold. Her once soft voice now echoed with power. "You were warned, yet you persisted. The pearl is not a prize, but the heart of this mountain. To take it is to doom the land below." Kendi, though shaken, stood his ground. "If this pearl can bring prosperity, why let it remain hidden here?" Nyoka's expression turned sorrowful. "The pearl sustains the mountain's balance. Without it, the waters will poison, the earth will crumble, and the people you seek to save will suffer. But now your intrusion demands judgment. Undeterred, Kendi pressed on, climbing higher into the mountain's dense forest. As he ventured deeper, the landscape became stranger. Trees twisted into unnatural shapes, the ground pulsed faintly, and the air grew heavy with the scent of sulphur. At last, Kendi reached a cavern carved into the mountain's rock. Inside he found the sacred pearl, glowing with an ethereal light that illuminated the darkness. Just as he reached out to take it, the air around him shifted, and Nyoka appeared once more. This time, she was fully revealed as the Serpent Bride. Her lower half was that of a massive serpent, her scales shimmering with hues of emerald and gold. Her once soft voice now echoed with power. "You were warned, yet you persisted. The pearl is not a prize but the heart of this mountain. To take it is to doom the land below." Kendi, though shaken, stood his ground. If this pearl can bring prosperity, why let it remain hidden here? Nyoka's expression turned sorrowful. The pearl sustains the mountain's balance. Without it, the waters will poison, the earth will crumble, and the people you seek to save will suffer. But now, your intrusion demands judgment. Kendi's new life was one of isolation and introspection. Bound to the mountain, he watched over its creatures and waters, protecting them from harm. Over time, in a small fishing village along the Swahili coast, life revolved around the ocean. The villagers depended on its bounty, but for the past 3 years, their nets had returned empty. Crops withered, storms destroyed homes, and hunger plagued the people. Some whispered that the village had been cursed by the ocean goddess Maji Nyota for polluting her waters and taking more fish than they needed. To appease her, the villagers left offerings by the shore every Christmas, hoping for forgiveness. But none were enough to lift the curse. On Christmas Eve, a young girl named Amani, the daughter of a fisherman, walked to the shore. She carried the last loaf of bread from her family's kitchen. Despite her hunger, she placed it gently on the rocks and whispered a prayer. "Please, Maji Nyota, have mercy on our village." As she turned to leave, a soft melodic voice stopped her. "Child, why do you offer your last meal?" Amani turned to see a beautiful mermaid with shimmering scales the colour of moonlight. Her hair cascaded like seaweed, and her eyes sparkled like stars. "I offer it because my family is suffering," Amani said. "If the ocean is kind again, we can all eat together." The mermaid, moved by Amani's selflessness, explained that Maji Nyota would lift the curse only if the village performed an act of collective sacrifice to heal the ocean. The mermaid instructed Amani to gather the villagers and explain that they must clean the polluted shores and return to the ocean, a gift greater than they had taken. If they failed, the village would continue to suffer. Amani ran back to the village and told the elders what she had seen. At first, the villagers were skeptical. Some accused her of lying, while others argued they had nothing left to give. But Amani's earnestness convinced a few to act. "We must try," she urged. "It's our only hope." That night, the villagers, led by Amani, worked together to clean the shore. They collected nets, bottles, and debris that had choked the coastline. For the first time in years, they united, forgetting their hunger and anger. When the shore was clean, they gathered their most precious items, family heirlooms, woven baskets, and jewellery, and placed them in a large wooden chest. They carried the chest to the ocean's edge and pushed it into the waves, reciting a prayer for forgiveness. The mermaid appeared again, smiling as she watched their efforts. "You have taken the first step," she said. "But one more gift is needed, a sacrifice that shows true love for the ocean." The villagers looked at one another, unsure of what more they could give. Amani, remembering her family's suffering, stepped forward. "Take me," she said. "Let me live in the ocean and serve Maji Nyota as a sign of our gratitude." The villagers gasped, but the mermaid shook her head. "It is not your life I seek, child, but your courage has taught your people what love for the ocean truly means." The mermaid sang a haunting song, and the waters around the village began to glow. Fish leapt from the waves, the skies cleared, and the land seemed to breathe with new life. The curse was lifted. The next morning, the villagers awoke to find their nets overflowing with fish, and their crops revived. They celebrated with a grand feast, sharing their blessings with one another. The chest they had offered to the ocean washed ashore, filled not with their gifts but with treasures from the sea, pearls, coral, and gold. Amani became a symbol of hope and unity in the village. And every Christmas after that, the villagers gathered to honour the ocean with love and respect, never taking more than they needed. The story of the mermaid's Christmas offering teaches the importance of respecting nature and living in harmony with it. It reminds us that true wealth lies in unity, compassion, and gratitude for the gifts of the earth and sea.